Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jerry Sansing, back with another edition of South Texas News and Reviews. Got some disturbing things to have to say this evening. Anyway, I'll be right back. And here it is, ladies and gentlemen. I'm afraid this thing has raised its ugly head one more time. I'm going to give you some of the news that's been in the Caller Times here lately about that. If you'll notice, I've spent a lot of time and money personally and so forth and so on trying to defeat that thing the first time. I'm tired of the local city council, also known as the real estate cartel around here, or real estate cabal as some people call it. So I just wanted to let you see this thing one more time. You may see them around town here over the next year. Be right back with you. Okay, I think we're recording, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go around and take my seat as usual and start filling you in on a few things that have concerned me lately. I know a lot of people are not concerned when I'm concerned, but at least I like to try to get the point of view out, since it still is freedom of speech. Unfortunately, around Del Mar College in Corpus Christi, Texas, and possibly in the state and nation these days, it's like the Neville brothers said, it's freedom of speech as long as you don't say too much. And people are way too sensitive these days, folks. We make assumptions, or I found a lot of people make assumptions that are just not true. You know, you try to help some people out and it just doesn't work at all. So, you know, what do? You just, I don't give up. I just keep trying and see if somebody will sit down for a change and discuss things without pitching a fit about it and making certain assumptions that are untrue. All right, now, mapping out memorials. This was on Tuesday. This was on Memorial Day, Veterans Day, actually, and that was on the 11th of November every year. And this was on the front page of the Caller Times, and it says Mapping Out Memorials by Allison Ehrlich. Okay? You see them every day. A statue at your child's elementary school, a monument at your neighborhood park, a marker at the ball field. But who stops to read, to remember, to recognize that these memorials are dedicated to those who served our country? The memorials in the city are plenty. Among them, the Old Bayview Cemetery, Gold Star Court, Dawson Elementary, Molina Vietnam Veterans Memorial, and so forth. So it gives 16 memorials here. Now, one thing that I have found that's missing on this list is the one right down on the bayfront, which was called Memorial Coliseum. Now, let me tell you what happened back then, as if you can't remember. I remember vividly. Okay? The real estate cartel, known as city council members, decided what they wanted to do was to turn that bayfront property where the Memorial Coliseum had been since the 1950s into a large commercial park. Okay? And not only did they want to do that, they wanted to do it at taxpayers' expense. I think it was around $44 to $45 million bill that Mr. Trey McCampbell was pressing along with the rest of the real estate cartel around here, and certain bankers and so forth and so on. The voters went and voted that one down, folks, and it was a resounding not no but hell no, we're not going to buy into this anymore. Now, I do want to say that I'm very disappointed with the voter turnout, even this last election earlier this month. I think it shows a very apathetic approach to life, and people just really around here will not go out and vote when they really should be taking care of themselves, or tax money and so forth and so on. So I don't know what to say, but I'm really rather perturbed still that Coliseum was torn to the ground. Now, on the heels of that, and then I'm sure we had all the people who are in the real estate business around here and other businesses just salivating over that bayfront down there as the city plugs along and tries to rearrange traffic and screw that flow up royally. But you know, I think it's just a shame that we have this mapping out memorials and people saying we really need to go appreciate those and take care of them. And Memorial Coliseum's gone. That was close to 400 people from Nueces County, Texas that had perished in World War II. Okay, so what about those folks? Okay, are they not deserving, if anything, better than to have a vacant lot down there with a bunch of tractors running on it and front end loaders and pipes stacked up and a mess downtown? So, that's what you get when you don't go to the polls and vote the bums out, as they say. Now, then, this was, I believe, yesterday. On Sunday, it says city faces action time. New council to decide on Bayfront plan. So that's why I put the No Destination Bayfront up again, folks. They have a picture right here in the paper above the rendering that happened when this millions of dollars was spent to plan out Destination Bayfront, which fizzled on the vine. And luckily, you find folks, woke up and decided to get rid of that mess down there. But here it is. It's back in the headlines, so to speak, ladies and gentlemen. Now, let me tell you the way I really feel about this. I felt strongly enough in the beginning of that Memorial Coliseum debacle to go down and sign a restraining order, actually, through Judge Klager, and halt the demolition of the Coliseum. Now, that Coliseum was a very prestigious building. It was internationally accepted as one of the architectural wonders around. We had it right here on our bayfront for many years. It was the centerpiece of an awful lot of graduations, different venues, rock bands coming in, gym shows, and so forth. It was just the center of attention down there. Now, that roof, that arched roof, was an architectural marvel. Okay, it was very significant when Mr. Colley designed that. And here it is in the paper. They're screaming about, well, we're going to have to put up a lot of shade so we can get people down here to the bayfront. Now, that was one thing that we preached when we signed that restraining order, to see if we could have the city come to its senses, so to speak, and get rid of this then Joe Adami Real Estate Company and all the title company people, some of which are still on the council now. It's all real estate and business. We don't care about taxpayers, or we really don't care whether they go down there and have a good time or not. But now all of a sudden we're going to readdress this issue of the bayfront, and what we want to do is make sure we've got plenty of shade down there. Now, there was an acre of shade down there with that architecturally significant roof, folks, and it could have been refurbished. It could have been just sitting there with a standing copper seam roof on it, and the showplace, the jewel in the middle of the city of Corpus Christi. But no, we wanted to tear it down. So thank you, Mr. Adami, one more time, and all the council members down there. I know that currently Mayor Martinez was on the council and voted to have that thing ripped down, along with your county judge, Lloyd Neal. He was a great proponent of razzing that building. So anyway, it just infuriates me right now, as infuriated as I can get these days, which is not jumping up and down screaming mad, folks. I've got a great deal of patience and tenacity, so your day will come there, real estate cartel, when you ruin this city. And you've got a damn good start on it, believe me, okay? If anything can be done completely bass-ackwards, if you know what I'm talking about, then that's this city council and this local county government. Okay, so city faces the action time. So here we go. Here comes the Destination Bayfront one more time, folks. And I didn't think that the real estate cartel, quote, unquote, city council members and all of their cronies down there, the rich people that make a whole bunch of money in real estate and the mess that goes on around this city. Then here they are, they're at it again. It's going to raise its ugly head one more time. So you ought to read this. It was in yesterday's paper. It's Sunday, November the 16th, and see what you think, okay? And then it quotes the great Trey McCampbell one more time, And you know, we've got all these people that are great proponents of this, and I don't know what to tell you folks. I think what we need to do is go down there and plant a bunch of grass and let people go down there and enjoy it. If they want to bring an umbrella for shade and stick it there where that Coliseum roof used to be, and say, you know, we woulda, shoulda, coulda had one of the most fabulous parks in the country if only they hadn't done that. And then I have that lawsuit that pending that one Carlos Valdez, the former city attorney, had filed against 5 of us who had the conviction of the heart enough to go down there and say, we're not going to back this thing, and we want to stop the demolition before they tear that magnificent roof off down there. So, and it's gone forever. So I don't know what to tell you folks. Why don't you call up and ask if Mr. Valdez is going to blather some more and keep pushing that lawsuit, even though he's not in the office anymore down there as the city attorney. And I'm glad he got his little fanny whip down there running for Klager's job. Okay, so I'm glad that you know, I don't have to contend with that smug look on his face down there. And if he can't be any more truthful with the general public as a judge than he was as an attorney for the city, and then before that the district attorney, then I'm glad he's not there anyway. So I'm going to gloat, Mr. Valdez. I hope some of your cronies will tell you that this is on the air, and so, you know, I'll have it on YouTube for you too. And if you'd like an autographed copy of this DVD that I'm making today, then I'll be more than happy to provide that to you. Okay? So that's my feelings on that one. Still, you know, when you stood up in court and read and said the reason that we should be prosecuted for this and fined $60,000, the 5 of us, then and you said that according to your law, not necessarily the law, but your law, the taxpayers of the city of Corpus Christi have no vested interest and have no standing in any contract that the city fathers, the real estate cartel, signs with any vendor. Okay? Now, if that doesn't go through you taxpayers like a shot, I don't know what it's going to take. But, you know, the whole thing is despicable, and as far as I'm concerned, so is Carlos Valdez. So we'll see if they'll ever, you know, go ahead and press that lawsuit, and I'm going to raise unmitigated hell, and there's going to be some real bad press with that one. Okay? So somebody better go down there and say, hey, you know, we better just take this one and throw it out the back door. This is going to be bad news, especially if the city now faces action time and want us to go back with the Destination Bayfront debacle. Okay? I don't know. You ought to read this. It's enough to make your stomach turn, so to speak. Okay? I know that makes mine turn. All right, now, then we've got another problem or two. I was very, very saddened by the fact that you voters out there decided to saddle Del Mar College employees and so forth and the taxpayers with Mrs. Scott. Okay, and let's see here what we've got on that one. Carol A. Scott. Okay, now on the front page of the Foghorn, when people had decided they wanted to run for the Board of Regents positions there at Del Mar College, then what wound up on the front page was a picture of Mrs. Scott. Her husband, by the way, is in the real estate title business. Okay, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that association in a minute. Mark Scott. He was just reelected to the city council, unfortunately. But anyway, here's the front page of the Foghorn with that great big huge picture of her. And then they had a picture, the only other picture of any of the candidates that was on here was Mr. Walter. He's signing his thing for place 4 or region 4, district 4 for the Del Mar College Regents. He was placed in after someone had stepped down, and he came in, he couldn't tuck his shirt in, didn't have socks and shoes that I could tell, flip-flops, and your shirt tail hanging out is not the way to go to present yourself as a Board of Regents member in public at a board meeting. And Mr. Guy Watts, who's been on that board for many years, at least 25 that I know of, has beat Mr. Walter, which in his own district. Mr. Watts went from at-large member, and he decided to go ahead and run for District 4 and has won that. Now, the two people that have been voted in by you fine folks out there on the Del Mar College Board of Regents has been Carol A. Scott, okay, and then you re-elected Dr. Nick Adami, okay. Now, Nick and I go way back. I thought he was a good friend. I helped run him the first time he ran for the Del Mar College Board, and then I've been sorely disappointed when you, Nick, with what you've done since then, was just roll over and play dead and march to the tune of one Trey McCampbell, who is the board president. Okay, but Foghorn, couldn't you do any better advertising than the front page of this to have Miss Scott and no mention except the names of the other candidates? Okay, and the taxpayers missed one of the best bets around, was to put one Mr. Ed Bennett, who's got a master's degree in accounting, a bachelor's degree in accounting and business, and CPA with 30 some odd years of experience with large corporations. And he's the one I'm going to talk about in just a little bit, about being told that it was going to cost him $26.7 million to obtain information under the Public Information Act. Okay, so let me go back with my problems with Mrs. Scott being on there. Okay, now I've been at Del Mar for over 25 years. It's hard for me to believe that, since I had eased out of industrial research and consulting and some other endeavors involving the scientific things that I have done in my past. But I've got a real problem with this. Okay, now she was on the CCISD board. I think that she was the president this last year or two. And let me tell you what my feelings are about CCISD. I cannot believe that with all the money that you taxpayers spend, and now we've got another $100 million bond, we're building all these schools and improving all of the facilities around here, yet we're anti-teacher and we don't want the kids educated. And when they graduate from CCISD high school around here, then about 70% of the ones that go to Del Mar College need to have remedial classes. I'm sure it's the same if they go out to A&M and up to UT and so forth, which means they're not getting the education that the taxpayers are paying for in the beginning, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, does that make any sense to you? Now, as the president of the CCISD board, if Mrs. Scott was so interested in education and so forth, then why in the world didn't she make sure that those teachers had what they needed to present the information to the students? And if the students balked and did not want to study, as a taxpayer, I resent the fact that you passed them on through, Miss Scott. Okay? I mean, that bothers me a great deal, because I don't do that with my students. Okay? If my students don't want to cut it or can't cut it, then I'm sorry, they're just going to have to retake the class, or they're going to have to study a little bit harder. I have absolutely no sympathy for students that want to roll over, play dead, and just expect me, because they're sitting in a seat in front of me, to get a grade. Okay? And then I get some that argue with me. I've got some PhD Nobel laureates in some of my classes now. And I'm not going to name names and so forth, but I mean, give me a break, folks. When you're an undergraduate student in the first 2 years, don't go into my class and try to tell me how I need to conduct business, and that I need to be doing this, that, and the other, and popping off and showing me how incredibly intelligent you think you are. Okay? Because all you do is you're just showing your absolute overall ignorance of things. Okay? And then you preach stuff that you really have no idea what you're talking about. Okay, now that that's being said, the appropriate person or persons in my classes this semester will know who I'm referring to with that one. Okay, I'm getting real weary of that, folks. Okay, now I've also had an indication that I have a great amount of power over someone, and that makes them uncomfortable. Folks, I have no power over a student. The only thing I can do is I was trained for many years, and I spent a lot of years in the research business and teaching business now. And my only purpose is to help students get through, okay? And I'll help them all that I possibly can, anytime I can. And how they perceive that is, I guess that's up to them, okay? But I have no power over anybody in the classroom, and I'm certainly not going to flunk somebody or make life miserable for somebody just because I could if I wanted to, okay? That's not my goal. But I don't consider my position as an instructor as being a power trip. I consider that to be, let me help these people get through, let them go out and make a decent living, and maybe some of them will go ahead and help other students when it comes time for them to practice their chosen fields and so forth. So, just pass on the help, folks. That's all I'm asking. I had some real help when I was in undergraduate and graduate school, people that really did care about my success, and that helped me very, very much to get through the rigors and the pain and agony of graduate school. Okay, so why are we not getting what we're paying for from CCISD? That's my big question, okay? Now, also, why would she head a move to reduce the contracts of teachers from a 3-year contract to a 1-year contract, okay? That sounds to me like an awful lot like Coastal Bend College and tenure. So let me just get back to what I was going to say, okay? Now, do you not understand, Ms. Scott and the rest of those board of trustees down there at CCISD, that if a teacher is worth their salt, which most of them are, I think it's the rare exception when you get one that can't perform up to standards or won't, and then you want to have a renewal of the contract every year. Now, you're not going to be able to get the best teachers around to go into a situation like that if they've got another alternative at another school district. You've got to have faith in your faculty, and that's something that the administration of CCISD, Del Mar College, and to a certain degree Texas A&M Corpus Christi has failed to realize, that the only purpose for an administrator at one of these institutions is to provide the instructors, teachers, professors, whatever they happen to be, with what that professor needs to teach those to students. And that's the only function. It's not out here, trying to sell new bonds. It's not out here running around eating a free breakfast. It's not running around trying to get the city to do this, that, and the other and join these teams where we can build a bigger, better, more expensive place to be. Your job is to stay there and be at the college and take care of business as it comes along and provide me with what I need to teach the students. Now, that may sound egotistical to some of you, but as a taxpayer out there to the Del Mar College district, why do you want a president and vice presidents over there? Okay, now you want them, you want qualified people to do that. And I've got serious doubts these days. And sitting over there drinking coffee all day at Starbucks when you should be over there in your office taking care of business is not the way to go, Vice President of Instruction Provost, okay? And I get reports every day, oh, he's over there at Starbucks. I don't see the car in the parking spot, and he's not taking business, obviously, because some of those departments are going straight to hell in the handbasket, okay? So there, fire me, I don't care. I give up, worrying about whether you are going to listen or not. Most of you won't. Okay. Now, most of the board members I've found at both Del Mar, and there are exceptions, and CCISD are anti-faculty anyway. Okay, and they're pro-graduating as many people as they can stuff through that stage just to make them look good. Okay. And that hurts taxpayers, folks. It hurts you real bad to have people coming out that don't know what they're doing and they're not capable of going into college from CCISD, okay, without remedial classes, which you pay for a second time when you pay your taxes to Del Mar College. And why you can't see that, I don't know. And then you vote the same people in, you know, and it's incredible to me. But maybe we can change that if the taxpayers will rise up. And if you want to, taxpayers out there, I'm the president of the Taxpayers Association in Corpus Christi, Texas, and we have a meeting which is the first Saturday of every month for our regular board meetings, and the public is quite welcome to show up to those. And it's at 2 o'clock at Small Planet Deli over on, I guess that's Saratoga, and I think it's Staples, okay? So right behind the fried chicken joint. So that's 2 o'clock, first Saturday of the month. Just come to the back room back there, and if you want to join in and get some work done and start seeing if we can straighten some of this mess out, then please show up. We're working real hard to maintain the credibility of CCISD and Del Mar, and it's tough going these days, folks. Okay. Now, is her mission, meaning Mrs. Carol A. Scott, okay, is your mission at Del Mar College to do what has been in the back of the minds of a lot of board members for a long time? And it started, it really raised its ugly head back when Chris Adler was on the board, okay? Mrs. Adler was anti-faculty. You'd think that she would know what she was doing. As far as education goes, being an educator herself, I think she was credentialed in the state to teach the public school level. But, you know, she hired this bozo, Dr. Travis Kirkland, to come in and wipe out tenure, and we're going to press it and make sure that you know, these faculty members knuckled under and did exactly what, and were in goose step with the board members, okay? So that didn't work out real well, did it, ma'am? Okay? And thank goodness, you know, you weren't the mayor of this place. You went from CCISD. If you were such a hotshot educator, then why was that when the quality of students coming out started to take a nosedive, and it's been perpetuated now with that same board of trustees over there through the reign of one Carol A. Scott. Okay, so is that your mission, Miss Scott? Were you voted in over there by the powers to be? I know they were pushing for you real hard, the administration and a bunch of the board members. And is your mission over there to support a move to get rid of faculty tenure and make sure that the faculty at Del Mar College is down to a one-year contract, so you can ruin this college just like the people up there, the board members of the Coastal Bend College, have ruined that one? Okay, it's you know, if you don't back your faculty members and you don't provide them with a certain amount of security, and you hire the best, as Richardson just said, former President Richardson, hire the very best of the people over here, and then I get the hell out of the way and let them teach because they are the best. Okay? And when I got here, folks, this faculty at Del Mar College was second to none in any community college and a lot of four-year colleges that I had associations with. Okay? And now the reputation of Del Mar College is nowhere near it used to be. And there's a real good reason for that. And I think it's called administration. So, you know, I'm as popular as inflamed hemorrhoids with the Board of Regents members and the administration of Del Mar College. And, you know, frankly, Scarlett, I just couldn't care less. Okay? Now, another thing that bothers me about the Mrs. Scott on that board, and in any capacity around town, her husband, Mark Scott, is a city council member, okay? And he is involved heavily, I don't know if he runs a title company or what, but he is real estate up to his ears, okay? Now he runs with some real high-rolling friends around here, the business elite, you know, and the real estate elite, and cartels, bankers, and so forth. Pardon me. I get all choked up when I talk about him. And I remember vividly that he was a great proponent of Las Brisas Energy Center. Now, I spent a lot of my lifetime trying to make sure that Las Brisas Energy Center did not build here in town and pollute the air, and as the American Pediatric Association predicted, probably kill at least 80 infants a year with all of the pollution and so forth, and then a bunch of cardiac patients and everything else, and it would be a total, complete disaster for Corpus Christi, Texas. Okay, now he voted for that. Now, as he did that, his wife owns a public relations company. That's Mrs. Carol A. Scott. I can't remember. It starts with a capital K, Coleco or something like that. I don't know what the name of it is. Couldn't care less. But she was the Las Brisas hired gun for public relations. Okay. Now, with his position on that city council, folks, he gets a lot of inside information, first information about large corporations, companies, and so forth that would like to locate here in the coastal bend. Now, I can't prove this, but I think Mrs. Scott is also the PR person for M&G Plastics. I wouldn't be surprised if she, and I'd heard a rumor, I can't confirm this, don't really care, but that she was a PR contact for Cheniere Energy Source, the liquefied gas, and I wouldn't be surprised if Vostel Pine didn't have her as a public relations person also. Now, I see a certain conflict of interest in that, and when that Las Brisas energy vote came up, I would think that Mr. Mark Scott would have recused himself from a vote on that, knowing that his wife was making money as the PR person, okay? But that shows me the low character that I think a person exhibits when they don't recuse themselves under those types of circumstances. I mean, even if there was 1/1,000,000th of a degree of conflict there, then I think the man should have spined up and said, no, you know, I've got a vested interest in this, I'm not going to vote on it. Luckily, the administrative judges and the state district judges and so forth in this area and up in Austin deemed the application to Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, TCEQ, by Las Brisas Energy Center to be substandard, and they agreed that that plant should not go in down here, and then they had financial troubles within the company up in Houston, Chase Energy, and it didn't go through. You know, thank everything that's holy. All right. Now, so I don't know what to say about Mrs. Scott. I'm going to watch her like a hawk on this, and you know, I'm going to be putting out the news if things look like they're going south again with that situation. Then we've got, along with that, system protects teachers, not students. This was by Rhiannon Myers. This came out October 19th. I haven't addressed this yet, but it says teachers who face accusations of sexual misconduct, cheating on tests, or other serious allegations remain in the profession because school districts allow them to resign instead of firing them to avoid potential legal battles. Well, that's true. That may be a prudent way to do it, though, folks, okay? But they're not protecting teachers and not students. You know, there are a lot of students out there, folks, that think that they've got a rite of passage with this. And if you let me give you some of the perils. Now, I'm not saying that there are a great number of teachers that do this, but if you are in CCISD and you're on a one-year contract and your job depends on your performance and so forth, not necessarily in educating, but retention of students and so forth, then it may be a reason why courses are watered down and perks are given, and you want to pass as many students as you can through, whether they meet your standards or not. Now, I'm not saying I know anybody like that, but I'm sure it happens, okay? So I think it was a tragedy to knock teachers around and say, you know, we're just going to put you on a year to year and keep an eye on you. Now, I don't know what Mrs. Scott's credentials are to evaluate whether a teacher does their job or not, but I doubt that that's something that they should be doing. Okay, and I know it's hard to evaluate teachers' effectiveness if you're over there off campus all the time, sitting at a coffee shop. All right, there has to be a better way to get rid of bad teachers. Okay. Well, this was on the heels of that article by Miss Myers, and this was an editorial in the Caller Times, and it says, I'm trying to decide whether or not to slap you, okay? Parents of school-aged children, actually anyone concerned for the welfare of school-aged children, probably wanted to do a lot worse to school administrators after reading the October 12th Caller Times article, Teachers Accused of Sexual Misconduct Allowed to Resign to Avoid Lawsuits. You know, in any endeavor, you're going to have problems with people, folks. You know, I run into that with students all the time. I do try to smooth things over. I try to help my students. If somebody does not fare well on a test, I'll ask them, you know, if I've got that insight to that person, ask them if there's anything I can do. You know, do you want to have a little talk after class, which is recently in my life triggered some reactions I never thought I would get for agreeing to sit down and talk to someone after class. You know, it just astounds me sometimes what some people perceive motives are. But, and I'm not going to dwell on that one. I'm over it, okay? I just forge ahead in my life. But it's a shame that some people perceive that as being something other than what it is. But that's what I'm paid to do, folks. I'm paid to make sure that my students understand the subject. And let me tell you from a selfish point of view, from my point of view, I tell my students all the time, I say, you know, most of you are going into the allied health professions. Some of you are going to go into medicine. Some of you are going to go to different physicians, assistant schools, dental schools, vet schools, and so forth. But a lot of you are going to go into human medicine in one form or another. I don't want to antagonize you to the point to where I have to be afraid of being rolled in to an emergency room on a gurney in semi-conscious state or unconscious state and worry about you coming back at me and you know, taking your sweet revenge out on me with sharp things and those needles and, you know, various things that can be done at that level. And I get a good chuckle out of that. But, you know, when I take my family members or myself to a medical facility around here, I want to make sure that those people know what they're doing. And you can't do that sitting on your butt, you know, twiddling your thumbs and not studying. So if I see that you have the ability to fathom what's going on and to forge ahead and really learn something rather than just try to memorize it, and you need some help, I'm the first person in the world that'll sit down and talk to you. Okay? Now, if that's during class, after class, in a crowd, individually, it doesn't make a damn bit of difference to me as long as I can help students get by. And then I'm also helping my fellow citizens here by providing them, I hope, with at least a course or two that made that nurse or that physician or that you know, physician's assistant, pharmacist, or whatever, a better person. Okay? And more likely not to harm anybody. But that's my motive, so I just thought I'd throw that out. And then we've got state math scores declining. What we need to do is start holding students' feet to the fire, folks. You know, you're not going to get through this sophomore level of your educational endeavors here, your experience, unless you sit down and you learn what's expected of you to learn. It's not impossible. Other students do it. A lot of other students can do it. Okay? But why people just want to roll over and then it's my fault that they can't succeed in the class. Okay, it's not my fault. I've had too many really excellent students go through, and you know, I think I'm told all the time by physicians and so forth that they're real pleased with the nursing pool that they've got around here, and you know, that they mention my name and they say, "Oh yeah, I remember that micro class," and green grass is green, is what I try to teach them. But you know, we need to do something, folks. We need to hold somebody's feet to the fire, get these scores up, get these students motivated to do better than they are right now. That's my basic philosophy. And I know that torques a lot of jaws around here with administrators and city council people and some of my students. Okay, but like I say, I don't have time to be messing around worrying about it. Now I'm going to go back to my favorite subject, Del Mar College. Okay. Now I have been there for over 25 years. It astounds me. I've been in here that long. Okay. I know I was a little bit younger when I decided to leave the rigors of industrial pharmaceutical research business and raise a family, try to have a good time, be with my kids and my wife and so forth. Okay. So that's why I came to Del Mar. Plus I've got salt water in my veins. I love the saltwater fishing and the beach and so forth. Now, this came out a while back on October 19th as a prelude to the voting on November the 4th. And this was Dr. Mark Escamilla's forum on why Del Mar needs this bond package. Okay. Now let me tell you why we needed that bond package. And he keeps bringing up Dr. Victor Trevino as the person and the reason why a guy can come in with 4 kids, go to school, go to work, and then go through medical school and be a total success as a physician. I had Victor in my class. He was a fine individual, great student, good sense of humor, hard-working person, but there are a lot of others that have done that. And I think I mentioned on one of the previous shows another classic example was Dr. Janelle Bennett. She was in this community, went to Del Mar College, went through the nursing program and so forth and so on, went off to graduate school, finally, after a while of hard work, completed a PhD in nursing and came back and was a stellar, as far as I'm concerned, faculty member at Del Mar College. And then we had 3 students that started blabbing and complaining that she was too tough and that they had to work a little bit, and oh, woe is me. And so this administration listened to that person and those 3 students and the individual at the nursing program. Several of them wanted to get rid of Dr. Bennett. There was some, I guess, not bad blood, but there, you know, a little bit of tension between some of the faculty members. So it seemed like it was a good thing to do. But why can't we go ahead and with Dr. Victor Trevino say, you know, Dr. Bennett, if it weren't for Del Mar College and your hard work at Del Mar College, then you probably wouldn't be with the degrees that you're at. Okay, so I won't get into that whole attempt to terminate her and so forth and so on. But I think that's why Del Mar needs this bond package. I can't exactly correlate the two. I do know that there's been severe mismanagement and misdirection and so forth at Del Mar College as far as getting things done. Deferred maintenance has been one of the hallmarks over there. They keep saying that the enrollment's going out of sight. It's really not, folks. Statistics show that we're down to less than 3,000 full-time students now. We've got a lot of part-timers. But the enrollment, if it drops from 12,000 something down to 10,000 something, folks, I mean, I was not a math major at Del Mar College. Apparently some people have a little bit different math ideas about math if they work for Del Mar College. But, you know, a decrease of 2,000 doesn't mean we're bursting at the seams, and that's not by any stretch of the imagination an increase, okay? So what can I say? Texas low voter turnout. I was going to get all over the taxpayers out there and remind you that it's better to go vote and take a stance on things than it is to sit over there at the VFW hall on a stool drinking beer all night and saying there's nothing you can do about it. Okay, now I've got nothing against VFW posts and so forth, but get out and vote. And it says turnout puts state at the bottom nationally. Only about 33% venture to the polls. It's a crime, folks. Now another thing that bugs me is the lack of the financial leadership at Del Mar College, and that's led to some problems. Okay. Now one thing that just tickled me to death was, it says here, and this was on Monday, September 29th. I clipped this out and ran across it again. There's a picture of Del Mar College administrator, Mr. Trey McCampbell, the president of the Board of Regents, receiving an award for something. Okay, it says Del Mar College Fiscal Services. That means the accounting end of it. Okay, the business and finance, recognized during the September 9th Board of Regents meeting for their work on the comprehensive annual financial report, the annual financial report, and the distinguished budget. Okay, so pictured it, and it gives these people. Okay, now I think that when Del Mar College writes checks to join certain services and all, then part of the perks that come back with that are these recognized endeavors. Now, if they think that the comprehensive annual financial report at Del Mar College was complete, I've got a hot flash for them. Okay. Now, I've been so disgusted with this, and then here's the enrollment boost, which was a debacle. That was another newspaper. This was the Foghorn, says that it's gone up, but it shows that it didn't. I've got the statistics here from statewide if anybody wants to see them. We're not increasing enrollment. Okay, but let me just go ahead and rehash this a little bit. Now, back in July, August of 2013, I heard our chief financial officer stand up in public and indicate that he had done everything that it was possibly, humanly possible to collect some bad debts. Now, what happened at that stage of the game was I went ahead under Public Information Act request mechanism, and I asked for the information that would involve any outstanding debts and the collection attempts thereof for about an 8-year period before that. Now, I got a 5-foot stack of documents piled up, and it had a whole bunch of information in it, and I'm not going to say whether that information should have been redacted or not, but there were student names. I didn't look for ID numbers or addresses or anything. I was looking for the proof that students who defaulted on their loans and so forth at Del Mar College were able to receive a letter, certified return receipt, indicating that they owed the money and that they needed to pay it back, or maybe a court lawsuit was going to be filed to recoup that money. Okay, there was not one shred of evidence anywhere that anything like a certified return receipt letter had gone out to any of those people. Now, in that 5-foot stack of paper, I guess it was just a serendipitous happening, if you know what that is. It's just like hitting the lottery. I found 3 pages of information. One of them was a letter from Dr. Lee Sloan requesting the ability to write off a great deal of money, and his request was to Dr. Mark Escamilla. And Dr. Mark Escamilla wrote off and signed off on it, said go for it. Okay. Now, that was the first document. The second document was a list of a dozen or so non-student entities that owed Del Mar College a significant amount of money, according to Del Mar College. Okay. And then the third page was a summary of all that, of the write-offs for the bad debts. And it totaled up to about $185,000. Now that may not sound like a whole lot of money compared to a $70 million a year budget, folks, but that's taxpayers' money. And I'd much rather see that go into the classroom or to support a scholarship or whatever to help a student through rather than just being written off. Now, when I triggered that, there was a person sitting beside me that was helping me go through there who's a CPA, Master's in Administration, Accounting and so forth, one Mr. Ed Bennett. Okay? So Mr. Bennett and I looked at that and said, what in the world, pardon me, how can Texas A&M Kingsville owe Del Mar College $54,000? Okay? How could the local Council of Governments, I think it's called the Coastal Bend Council of Governments, owe Del Mar College $89,000? And why was that written off with absolutely no evidence that someone had tried to get that debt paid by the people that owed it? There were Driscoll Hospital, the Army depot out here owed them. It was just incredible. The Verizon telephone. And what we found out since then is that there was a conversion, they call it, from one accounting system to another one that occurred in 2010, and that didn't go so well. So with all that lack of accountability and so forth, it's my speculation, I'm not accusing anybody, but something stinks there, folks, when you have to write off $185,000 just to rectify and resolve deficiencies in the amount of money that was converted. I'm not going to go any further. Then Mr. Bennett and I decided that he should, as an accountant, ask for information, and he requested that, and the college came back and said, in order for us to provide you with that information, you've requested the general ledgers. He didn't say anything about all supporting documents. It was going to take the college 120 years to provide that. They were going to have to make copies and look for redaction of 105 million pages of documents, and that the charge for that labor and so forth over that 120-year period of time was going to be 26.7 something million dollars. Okay. Now, it's come to my attention just recently that maybe the Attorney General's office ain't real happy about all that either. Now, Del Mar hem-hawed around, stalled out, and messed around for a long time before they had the attorney over there at Del Mar College sit down with Mr. Bennett and say, I think we've misinterpreted maybe what your request was all about, but rather than be prudent stewards of the taxpayers' money, then what we did was we just decided we'd try to scare the hell out of you with a $26.7 million bill, and then stall you out some more and play games with you. Okay? Now, that is incorrigible, folks, and you're paying the salaries of individuals that would pull a stunt like that at Del Mar College. Okay? And it's so bad that even Nick Jimenez, who's a columnist, and I think he's called a editor emeritus over at the Caller Times, wrote a October 5th article that says "Lesson to the Del Mar Fiasco," and he wasn't real complimentary. Government of all sorts, big and small, are continually throwing up barriers, unreasonable fees, foot dragging, obfuscations to thwart the public's right to know. In this case, the citizen won. Okay, so finally, Mr. Bennett did get his stuff done. And then I'd like to take the last 5 minutes to say how despicable I think it is by this real estate cartel city council to annex private property out at Chapman Ranch just so they can prevent a wind farm from going up. Now that's what they say it's all about. I think it's not necessarily about the wind farm, personally. I think that it's about land grabbing so that they can take all of their real estate cartel buddies, the real estate developers and builders and stuff around here, and provide them with a whole bunch of money out there that they can make putting up subdivisions on private land and dictating that they can't have that wind farm out there, which is a whole lot better use than spending my taxpayer money trying to put services out there, infrastructure, to make a whole bunch of money for the housing developers around here. Okay? Now I know that thrills the developers to no end, and I'm sure somebody'd like to take me out back on that Chapman Ranch, back behind the trees somewhere, a hedgerow somewhere, and choke me. But that's the way I feel about it. I'm sick and damn tired of paying the bills for all of these real estate interests so that they can make more money and spend it out of town. A lot of these people own property out of town, and they don't necessarily like to live here. They can go vacation and go live in a second, third, fourth house anywhere in the world because they've got that kind of money, and they've earned that kind of money on the backs of the taxpayers. Okay, so that's the way I feel about it. But and then to blatantly lie about it and say that the Navy is against it because it may interfere with the radar for Naval Air Station Kingsville, Naval Air Station Corpus Christi, that's just blatant lying to the public, folks. Okay, there's no such paperwork, there's no such documentation that any of that is a valid way to go. So I just wanted to let you know that I'm very, very discouraged. I'm very, very let down that you people out there, my viewers, voted in some of these clowns again, like Mark Scott, and then put Carol Scott on the Delmar Board of Regents to go over there and screw that place up. Okay? And then if you want to look at something with all these bonds and stuff, this was before the bond went through. It says here that we have the debt per student. So at Delmar College, our debt per student that's over there is $9,899, and it just went up. Okay? And we're almost as high. Well, we're at least 3/4 above the rest of them, the community colleges. And then our tax rate is only second from the top. Okay, of all the other community colleges in Texas. And this is straight off the air, folks. Okay, and then I don't know how we're going to figure out that we've got. I think the count was 10,000 students, almost, let's say 11,000 students, down from 12 something. And is that an increase in student population when you take a decrease like that? And then if you take a look at the increase in students, we haven't increased but about 6.6%. And actually we dropped 6.6%. That's a negative number. Okay? And then here's another printout of Mr. Jimenez's Delmar Public Information, Bill Chill's public inquiry that was in the Caller Times. So I guess what I'm trying to say, folks, is I've been, I'm a little bit concerned about where we stand in this community as taxpayers, not only at Delmar, but CCISD and the city and so forth and so on. They're going to bleed you dry if you keep up allowing them to do that. So go to the Board of Regents meetings at Delmar College. They're unfortunately the same time as City Council, and I think there's a reason for that. But I've got about a minute left. I'm going to go ahead and chop the camera off, and I think what I'm going to do is, rather than put that banner back up here with the times and so forth on it, I think I'll just put the No Destination Bayfront so you can think about that for about 30 seconds. There you go, folks. I'll let you have that for about 40 seconds to think about it, and I'll talk my way through this. I know you're probably tired of me talking, but I've got to get my message out sooner or later. Okay? So beware of what's going to happen. I may have to go back into finding that stack of these signs I've got somewhere around and get some more printed, and we'll just see what this crazy real estate cartel city council is going to do. The silly council, as I call them. But anyway, I'll give you an update on the new times that are going to. This show will run in December. I'll see you next time. Thank you for watching.